June 2000, Las Vegas, inside an FBI field office. 3 casino executives sit down at the same table. Different casinos, different players, but the same problem. Each of them is missing millions. Each of them is chasing high rollers with clean credit, real bank accounts, and long histories of paying back their debts. But something's wrong. The names don't check out. The numbers are dead. And when the FBI starts digging, they realize none of these men actually exist. In less than 24 hours, a crew walked into the biggest casinos in Vegas and walked out with over $35 million in casino credit, never intending to pay any of it back. They didn't use weapons or hack a system, and they didn't cheat the games. They just built fake identities so convincing the casinos gave them millions willingly. So who were they? How did they pull it off? And how do you catch people who were never real to begin with? This is the story of the Roselli Brothers, the most flawless casino heist in American history, and the one case the FBI never solved. 5 years earlier, 1995, Fort Lee, New Jersey. Inside a penthouse apartment, a man sits alone at a desk. On the desk, credit files, social security numbers, dormant accounts, and inactive profiles. But none of them are his. Some belong to the dead, others to people who hadn't used credit in years. All of the records are clean and perfect. The man's name was Charles Kent. At least, that's what the paperwork says. That's what the lease says. That's what the bank records show. That's what the phone answering service confirms when anyone calls. Charles Kent is not real, but for the next 4 years, casinos will believe he is. The plan begins with credit. Casino credit isn't like a bank loan. It's based on trust. If you look wealthy, act wealthy, and leave a paper trail to prove it, casinos will lend you chips. A lot of them. And the crew behind this knew that. They called themselves the Roselli Brothers, Frank and Anthony Roselli. The names weren't real either. There were no birth certificates, no school records, no family. The name was borrowed, taken from a real-life mobster, Johnny Roselli, who once worked for the Chicago outfit and even did business with the CIA. The men behind the con weren't related to him. They just knew the name would carry weight. Roselli sounded like someone casinos should know, someone with money, someone with history, and that's all they needed. Before they ever stepped inside a casino, they went to work engineering identities. Each fake name had a luxury apartment in a known zip code, a bank account with $50,000 in verified deposits, an answering service that took calls like a real office, a fake business, international consulting, registered with matching letterhead, voicemail, and a secretary. Every detail was covered. Charles Kent, Bill Hearn, Robert Payne, Sean Grant. All of them built from either hacked credit data or dead individuals with clean financial histories. The goal wasn't to use them right away. It was to build credibility slowly. They opened accounts at multiple banks, kept the money in place, let time do the work. Because casinos don't just hand over credit, they verify behavior over months, sometimes years. So the crew waited. And by 1996, the Rosellis made the contact. They visit the MGM Grand in Las Vegas under new names. They don't ask for credit yet. They gamble small, they tip well, they lose often. Every weekend, they return. Sometimes it's Kent at the baccarat table. Other times, it's Hearn at the craps pit. Different faces, same results. Always polite and never cause problems. And every now and then, they win big. Just enough to keep the illusion alive. After 6 months, they go to the credit office. They request a line, and as expected, it was immediately approved, $50,000. They take the chips, they play, they lose, but a week later, the marker is paid in full. No delay, no excuses, just a wire transfer from the same account the casino verified months earlier. The hosts are impressed. They extend another offer, this time $100,000. Same result, the Rosellis keep losing. But keep paying, always on time, always in full. Behind the scenes, they start applying at multiple casinos, Atlantic City, Puerto Rico, Caesars, the Bellagio. Each time, a new identity. Each time, a new credit line. Each time, the same pattern. Look wealthy, lose chips, pay the debt. And it works. By 1998, the Roselli operation has access to over $2 million in casino credit, legitimately issued to identities that don't exist. They still haven't taken a dollar, because this isn't the heist. This is the setup. And the longer they wait, the more they'll be able to take when the time comes. By the end of 1998, the Rosellis had credit lines open in half a dozen casinos. But two men couldn't do it alone forever. They needed more names, more hands, more people who could play the part. So they built a network. With new members, but the same plan. Every recruit had a job. The primary player was the face. They walked into the casino, signed the credit marker, played the games, shook hands with the hosts, and looked like they belonged. The backup bettor sat at the same table, opposite side, placed the counter bet. If one lost, the other won. On paper, they both looked like high-stakes gamblers taking real risks. In reality, the money never moved. The chip casher never gambled. They stayed close to the cashier, brought in chips in small amounts and cashed them out quietly, and left without a word. Always under reporting limits, always invisible. Each person was trained what to say, what not to say, how to act, where to stand, what kind of watch to wear. Then came the front. The casinos were doing more checks. They were verifying employers, running background checks, making phone calls. So the Rosellis built real businesses to support the lies. JDS Global, Worldwide Weston, registered companies legally filed, with office space, answering services, voicemail systems, business mail subscriptions, and receptionists trained to confirm everything. Charles Kent worked out of Fort Lee as a senior investment consultant. Bill Hearn had a Midtown office as a financial analyst. If anyone called, they'd get a receptionist, not a voicemail. If anyone mailed a letter, it would be received. If anyone Googled the company name, it would appear in business directories. Nothing led back to the Rosellis, but everything looked real. And that was the point. There were no second chances, no improvisation, and no room for error. The network moved like clockwork, across states, across casinos, across aliases. Because the scam wasn't just about gambling, in their opinion. It was about infrastructure. And now, it was ready. December 31st, 1999, Las Vegas. The most anticipated night of the century. While crowds were watching fireworks, the Roselli crew was watching the clock. The crew was spread across the Strip. Caesars Palace, MGM Grand, the Mirage, the Bellagio, the Tropicana, Puerto Rico, Atlantic City. Every identity had an assignment. They weren't improvising. They were following a sequence, one that had been rehearsed for months. Phase 1. Maxing the credit. Each alias approached the credit office. Same request. I'd like to raise my line. The accounts had been active for over a year. No missed payments, consistent high-stakes play, perfect behavior. The casino hosts had no reason to deny the request. So the lines went up. 50,000 became 100,000. 100,000 became 250,000. Some reached 500,000, 750,000, and even $1 million. These weren't suspicious at all. They were rewards, the kind casinos give to players they trusted. And the Roselli crew had spent 5 years earning that trust. Phase 2. Placing the bets. With chips in hand, each identity hit the tables. Baccarat, craps, roulette. No excessive betting, no wins that stood out. Just enough action to keep the illusion alive. Each alias played fast. They tossed bets, nodded at dealers, acted like they always had. In some casinos, a second alias sat at the same table, betting on the opposite outcome, offsetting the risk, maintaining the image, making it all look normal. Phase 3. Cashing out. Once the bets were done, the real move began. Chip after chip was brought to the cashier's cage. Not in small, structured amounts like before. This time, there were no thresholds, no caution, no IRS reporting limits. They cashed out everything. $40,000 in one window, $90,000 in another. 6 figures in clean chips converted to cash in minutes. No one questioned it. These were known players who always paid. By the time casino security started tracking the chip flow, it was already too late. Phase 4. The exit. No one stayed the night. No one returned to their hotel room. No one caught a flight under their real name. They had escape routes planned, cars rented under other identities, cash divided, routes mapped. Some left Nevada within hours. Some disappeared into other cities. None were ever seen again. In the days that followed, nothing seemed wrong. The casinos assumed the markers would be repaid like always. They sent reminders, then statements, then calls. No response. Weeks later, it still hadn't sunk in. Only after months of silence did the casinos start comparing notes. Different names, different states, same tactics, same credit patterns, same result. Nothing paid. By the time they contacted law enforcement, it was too late. The FBI began their investigation in June 2000, but every trail ended the same way. The Roselli Brothers? Dead since the 1980s. The names? Stolen. The identities? Fabricated. The people? Gone. No prints, no passports, no real names. Just a clean disappearance and $37 million. Gone. No violence, no weapons, no alarms. Just patience, precision, and timing. The FBI starts digging through the records. They track bank accounts, company registrations, phone numbers, lease agreements. Everything seems real until it isn't. The names lead nowhere. The Roselli brothers never existed. Charles Kent, dead since 1987. Bill Hearn, stolen identity. Robert Payne, non-existent in Social Security records. The bank accounts, closed. The business addresses, empty. The office numbers, disconnected. One after another, every thread ends in the same place, a dead end. Some of the identities were taken from the deceased, others from living citizens with clean credit. When the FBI reached out to them, they were just as shocked. They had no idea their names had been used to steal millions. The official damage was over $37 million taken across 7 casinos. No physical evidence left behind. No suspects named, no arrests made. Afterward, the industry response was immediate. Casinos tightened their credit policies. 6-month verification became 12. Background checks were upgraded. Surveillance systems got new software. Transaction limits were lowered. New anti-fraud protocols were rolled out across Nevada and beyond. The scam had exposed vulnerabilities no one thought possible. It wasn't just that someone fooled the casinos. It was that they built the perfect lie and then vanished. The Roselli case remained open for years. Eventually, with no suspects, no evidence, and no progress, the FBI quietly closed the case in 2005. Officially, the file is labeled unsolved. The FBI calls it one of the cleanest financial crimes ever committed in the gambling world. The crew behind it, whoever they were never caught.